Well, good morning. 4:04 a.m. in the morning on the second day of January, and the title for today's video is a question. Do all things really work together for good? And the quotation that I open with is from Romans 8:28 in the King James Version. For we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. For me, a new year is both a time of reflection and projection. As I reflect back on my life just in the past year, I can see miracles. I survived the stroke and temporary paralysis on the right side of my body when it occurred. I survived 3 heart attacks after my operation. I recovered my ability to breathe normally again. Then the threat of losing my home reappeared, and I panicked. My family was scared too, enough to get my daughter to finally move into her own place with her family. I hired a lawyer to stop them from taking my home just before Christmas, but that attorney was on the bank's side, not mine. Then God provided a retired lady attorney who saw things that I never would have seen because I don't know their rules like she does. I'm not sure how this will all spin out, but a level of confidence is overtaking my doubts and fears. Indeed, it has been a very interesting year in 2015. As I said, there were miracles. You all know, if you've been listening to my videos for any length of time, that I had a stroke back in March. At first, in February, I noticed a severe shortness of breath as I started to go for a walk on the beach with a friend of mine, and I just couldn't. I got so far and I just had to sit down. I just couldn't go any further. I was gasping for air. That was before the stroke. But then in March, I did have a stroke, and when I got up, I my leg, that was the whole right side of my body was paralyzed, and my right leg was sort of, well, the way I collapsed on the floor. I almost was like contorted into a pretzel shape, and I couldn't get up for about an hour. I had to pray and pray and pray. God, help me get up, help me get up. And I finally was able to get to the edge of the bed, and I kept on praying until I could stand on my feet, and then I could take my first steps, and then I finally walked out of my room and told my daughter and her family what had happened to me. I've told that story, of course, before, and I'm repeating it again because it's a small miracle. I mean, people don't generally, when the paralysis sets in, that's it. But in my case, all it had was a little bit of slurred speech initially. That cleared up fairly quickly. But there was still an issue that had to, there was evidence of having had the stroke. And that's why my family insisted that I go to the emergency room. And of course, they realized that I had had a heart attack, or not a heart attack, but a stroke. And when they saw my heart, when they did the tests and saw my heart, the local doctors didn't want to work on it and sent me to Shands. I've repeated that story a lot of times, but when I got home from the hospital after spending over 6 weeks in the hospitals altogether, I got home, and less than 2 weeks, about a week and a half after I got home, I got another heart attack, and went to the emergency room, and they checked me out, and then I ended up having 2 more heart attacks and going back in 2 more times after that. But when I got home, I had problems breathing normally. I would walk to the refrigerator and I'd go, I'd be all out of breath just walking from my bedroom to the refrigerator, which is not good. And that took all summer long to finally clear up. And it wasn't till toward the end of August when I started seeing the holistic practitioner and he started doing the laser therapy on me that I was able to to finally regain my breath again. So I was ecstatic. But in that same month that I started seeing the holistic practitioner, I had a court appearance, and I went into the court and on a what I thought was a scheduled court date, and they said, "No, that's been canceled. The judge awarded your motion to dismiss, granted your motion to dismiss." Now, I waited some time, but they never sent me the paperwork acknowledging that. And the next thing I knew, I was being served papers that I had to get out. The the hearing was supposed to be November 30th, and I was told that I'd be kicked out the next day, December 1st. That's when I hired the attorney, and as I said, uh, the attorney uh, sat me down after the meeting with the judge, and it got me granted a stay for a month until January the 4th, and uh, but told me, plan on leaving. They own your house. Uh, well, according to this lady attorney that I've been dealing with, they made some serious errors in the law, and I wouldn't. Why did that freeze up on me? I'm confused when stuff like that happens. But in any case, they made some mistakes, and she said, that's very serious errors. And from her perspective, I have a very, very strong case to recover some significant damages for what has occurred in this whole thing. So I will be working with this attorney in the near future. We have filed some before the court, and again, the computer is freezing up on me on the screen, and I'm not sure what that's. Why is it doing that? Why? Uh, anyway, it is what it is. But the attorney is going to be working with me in the very near future here. Already is working with me actually, but going to be coming and checking some things, and we're going to be moving forward and hopefully uh, making some significant changes. Now, this attorney is retired, so she herself does not want to take the case, but she is working with uh, friends of hers to help me find an attorney that will actually stand up for me and not for the banks and the crooked judges that have allowed this thing to go on far too long, threatening me with the loss of my home, threatening me uh, with all sorts of things. And again, there was an arrest made for driving without a license when I was in my house. I was assaulted by a policeman in my own home. Uh, and the judge that I ended up going before was a judge that worked for the law firm that tried to take Dr. Mary's advantage of Dr. Mary, and and there was a whole lot of things that just weren't right. And I knew they weren't right from the beginning. It was almost like there was a conspiracy against me, probably because I'm speaking out. And some people don't like the fact that I'm telling the truth about the corruption in our courts, the corruption in our government, the corruption in the system itself. Now, I wouldn't know if it wasn't for this attorney, this retired attorney. I wouldn't know that they were violating their own rules. But she is adept at such things. So I normally shy away from attorneys, but here's a godsend. Here's somebody that is willing to look at the law and is right on behalf of the law for me, and what would help me in my case. Now, the law is convoluted. I've said that before, and it's true. But I do have hope and confidence that things are turning out right, that God is actually working everything for my good, and ultimately it's all going to come out very well in the end. Thank you for listening, and namaste.